Welcome to this episode of the Million Dollar Mastermind. I'm Larry Weidel, and before we get started, if you want to know exactly how to win again and again, go to weidelonwinning.com/webinar now to watch something I've put together for you. Now let's get going into this episode of Million Dollar Mastermind. I am here with founder and CEO of Botkeeper, and that is Enrico Palmerino. Enrico is running an incredible operation in the bookkeeping for account business, and in fact, 300 full-time employees. And the company's just founded in 2018. They are rolling, and congratulations on your success so early with your new business there, Enrico.
Thank you, Larry. Very much appreciated. Yeah, and we haven't quite only started in 2018. We actually launched at the beginning of 2016, but it wasn't until the end of 2018 or 2019 that we rolled out the platform for accountants. That is certainly only a couple of years out there, but it's been an awesome journey.
Tell me about that story now. You were in a couple of things. You've been a CEO of ThinkLite,
Yes.
which is a lighting efficiency company. And then you moved up to co-owner, managing director of SmartBooks, outsourced bookkeeping and accounting service. And now you've taken all of that and building something really substantial now, it looks like.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey for sure. So I come from a quant background, so I went to college at Babson, and ThinkLite was call it the founding solution for a problem in the lighting and accounting sector. So we built some software that automated how you do lighting analysis and design. The business took off. We were doing 8.5+ million in ARR by the time I was a senior. So it was a crazy college journey. And then had a great exit that came out of that. Biggest headache was our accounting. And so I then, kind of threw my hat into the accounting arena, joined SmartBooks, grew the firm, quite a bit over the next few years to, 40+ employees and a really solid cloud accounting practice. And then, ran into, I'd say, like some of the headaches and hurdles that faced the entire industry as a whole, which was human capital. Like the accountants are in short supply, but in super high demand. So fewer and fewer people are going into accounting year over year. It's like down 20% consecutively year over year. The average age of an accountant is 55. 72% of accountants that leave an accounting job leave the industry altogether. And the starting wages for an accountant just jumped 20% at the beginning of this year. So you're seeing a lot of strain on the accounting industry and accounting firms alike. All the while, the demand is just growing exponentially. So even though the supply is shrinking, the demand for financial services is expanding at the kind of same velocity that new business formation is happening, and that's an exponential curve. And so you take those two things together, and you have this major headache and problem. You have all these businesses wanting your services, but not the people to do it. And that's where the idea for Botkeeper came to be, which was, let's build a platform for you to run and manage a bookkeeping practice on. Be the first of its kind. So there wasn't any other CAS, client accounting services platform, aka bookkeeping, out there for you to build and scale a business on. And then two, if that platform did what it was supposed to, which was be a management solution, but also unify all these disparate apps out in the market and allow access in an automated fashion to the financial data of the businesses and allow you to relay back to them, process accounting, you could take that data exchange or platform, marry in machine learning and AI, and actually automate away a lot of the processing, whereby which both of those together free up the human capital constraints, because you're allowing a human to do way more than they could otherwise, do the skilled critical thinking, complex accounting, but automate away a lot of the manual, tedious, kind of mundane, basic bookkeeping.
Yeah, and what school was this? What college?
I went to Babson College in Massachusetts.
And what were you studying that caused you to, was it Were you in an entrepreneurial business management type program?
So Babson happens to be ranked number one in the world for entrepreneurship. I happen to also be in E-Tower, which was the top 21 entrepreneurs on campus. It's a amazing community. It's kind of like a fraternity slash sorority because there's men and women, but you get voted in, so you had to apply for membership. You get voted in based on your credentials, pedigree, and kind of like you as a person, whether they believe you're gonna achieve what you set out to. But they also voted out every semester two individuals who were basically the weakest links. So it's kind of like Survivor for being an entrepreneur. So I was doing that, and then I was also taking. I graduated with a triple concentration or triple major in quantitative methods, strategic management, and entrepreneurship.
Wow. And was this uh, growing up, was it likely or unlikely that you ended up on a career path like this? What did you have in mind for yourself growing up?
So back as early as I think it was my first grade class, you're kind of asked by your professor to draw a photo of what you want to be when you get older. And my mom, I think, still has it today. It's I drew an image of like this individual wearing kind of like my best rendering stick figures, right? This person wearing like a suit and carrying a briefcase, and I wrote on the top of the paper CEO. So I'd say I think I probably always thought and wanted to be a business owner. And as early as a kid, I was selling candy bars at sports games. I was vending hot dogs at a supermarket with like my own little hot dog stand. I was buying gumball machines and placing them in stores and bought a truck equipment and employed some friends to do landscaping. So I think I was just heading down the path, I think, since an early age.
Well, I think you were not a business prodigy, you're like a young business psycho, it sounds like.
What can I say? Business is my, some people have like a sport of choice. I feel like business is mine.
Well, I was trying to think at what age did I first hear CEO? And not only had you heard of it, you wanted to be one at age 5. Uh,
Yeah, I'd watched how my both of my grandfathers and even my dad had my grandfather on my dad's side, he built a plaza and a supermarket, and then like multiple supermarkets and stuff. And I watched the community impact that he had, and it was just like so cool to have this thing that he had started, and obviously like assembled like the bricks that came together, and then the business and employing a lot of people, and he did a lot of like charitable and donations and stuff for the community, and just the impact that he had, and everyone knew him. So he's like a local celebrity, which was so cool. And then my grandfather on my mom's side had started an agriculture distribution business, and it was like the exact opposite. Where from on my dad's side, that grandfather was like, the work demanded a ton. Like it was just tons of hours. Like running a supermarket is just crazy hours and time. And my dad ended up taking over too, so I watched that firsthand. But my grandfather on my mother's side, he had figured out a way to build a business that was like just him and like some contractors and vendors, who I had the ability to like work from home and crazy amount of flexibility, and like sold it and retired early. And I kind of just had this vision for like, how do I do both, right? And that's what I wanted to be. I wanted the flexibility, but I liked the some level of control. I most importantly just love the idea of the impact.
Hey, listen, there's a lot of information online, but there aren't a lot of people who've actually done something. In my case, I've actually built a successful business that's accrued over $5 billion in assets under management and has done well even during trying times. Now, if you want to know exactly how I've done this, go to whitelmwinning.com/webinar now. I've compressed a decade of learning into 5 short weeks just for those of you who want to give yourself an incredible advantage and are tired of waiting and watching others move up. Yeah, and what skill sets were you developing as you came up? Were you thinking of those terms, or you just trying to try as many different businesses, do as many different things, uh, learn as much as you possibly could to put you in a position uh, to be successful like that?
So I think I gravitated to math, and I liked speaking, or I liked, communication. You could say I got in trouble a lot in class for talking when I probably shouldn't have. But I think, two skill sets, like one fundamental principle is just being able to sell, right? And communicate people. But two, and the foundation to being able to sell is solving a problem, and being able to problem solve, find a gap or a need and meet it. And that's one of the reasons why I gravitated to math, was I love problem solving. And whether it was vending candy and drinks and stuff like that at sports camp, like the problem I was solving was people were here out in a field and hungry, and there's no place to go. There's no like outdoor vending machines, so a little stand and selling concessions and stuff solved that need, and I had to be able to converse and sell people on whatever products I was selling them, and also identify like the ones that people would want that I didn't have and need to make sure I come back to the next game with. And then math, I loved the algorithms, and then I started to, I think, just gravitate to, I love the idea that you could use mathematical equations to automate processes, and I thought that was like just beautiful, like streamlining and automating things was, this idea of machines and software was cool, and that's kind of since then where I continue to gravitate today, but all fundamentally rooted in problem solving.
Well, it obviously helps inform your decision making to move in the right direction as much as possible when you know where you want to end up. And you, having set your sail towards having your own thing, being your own company, uh, it probably wasn't an accident that you wound up. Uh, I don't know that college in Massachusetts. Baxton, are you saying?
Babson, Babson. Yeah, it's small. I mean, it's like only 1,200 students. But at
Okay,
the time it was, I think,
I
might be
don't feel so
1,500
bad
now.
now.
Yeah, it's small. They definitely have a lot of prestige around entrepreneurship and are, like globally ranked.
Now, How'd you even find? How'd you even? Did you go on a hunt, or had some of your family members been to Babson to where, or were you out looking for the number one entrepreneurial school? How did you wind up there?
So I started looking for the number one business school. So I was looking at, like Ivy Leagues, like Vanderbilt, like just Wharton. I was looking at like those, schools like that. And along the way, I was catching up with a buddy who happened to be on the tennis team with me. And he's like, "Oh, Enrico, where are you applying?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm looking here." He's like, "Well, what are you looking for?" Like there's a very wide range in size and feel and location of those schools. Like what do you care about? I told him I just, wherever I go, I just want to go to the number one place. Like I'm a competitive person by nature, so I want to go the best. And he said, well, if that's your criteria, and I, told him best business school. He's like, well, have you heard of Babson? They're number one in entrepreneurship. And then that was like the instant click. Like it was like, well, entrepreneurship is more aligned with what I really want to be versus call it like business, because it's more broad set, not this like idea of like starting something and taking it from the ground up. And then I went, did research, went on campus and, I think shadowed a class, and I applied early decision, and went there. I applied, early action to, was like Bentley and, Bryant as well, just because they were also local.
Coming out of that, uh, because people, the idea of this is to talk about winning and lessons you've learned about winning by real world experience. But the people can't listen to this, and they're looking for, what can I do, what can I do that I'm missing and everything. Now, one thing they can't do, probably for most people, it's too late to go and try and get into Babson. But the thing is, the they could pick up the things that you learned about how to think, how to problem solve, coming out of a school? What makes them number one in entrepreneurship? What would distinguish themselves, and what advantage did you get by going to that school? And did they deliver on that promise?
I talk about them quite a bit. So, and I don't think I would do that if they didn't deliver on it. I definitely owe a lot of my success to Babson, predominantly because like the thing that distinguished them was they preach and practice this idea and concept of entrepreneurship in action and thought in action. And so I found that like comparing my education to some of my buddies, a lot of their courses were taught by, say like professors and academics, and it was philosophy and theory. And Babson was very much taught. A lot of my professors were like major lawyers that are like professors. They were like the head of marketing at, Coca-Cola or something like that. That's now teaching the course. It was, it was doers who had come back to teach. And they also practiced the same philosophy in terms of how you learn. So it wasn't like theory and concept and case study and just, it was actually do. Like, you're going to go and group up with some students. You're going to put a pitch together. You're going to pitch the professors in class on your pitch. The winning teams will, kind of make it to the winning pitches will make it to the finals. And then depending on how you did in the finals, you get awarded between $500 and, at the time, I think it was like $3,500 in cash to start the business that you pitched. And then you'd have to like wrangle and assemble the team, which were your, students, and then get out there and start the business and generate revenue and money and, manage expenses. And, ideally at the end of the semester, have generated, multiples more than the money that went into the company. And all that money then went into like charity and other stuff. And you got to pick the charitable foundation that it went to. And so it was just like right out of the gate. And that was literally my freshman year, first semester. That was how it started. So, you do that. And then, I tried, like, granted, I've had a couple of successes, but I've also incorporated, I think, 13 other companies that are, nothing to write home about. And, but along the way, I was spending time with my law professor after class saying, can you help me with the contracts that I'm working on for my lighting company? I was spending time with my marketing professor around like messaging and like how we structure brochures, or spending time with, my macroeconomics professor on like the business model and like the managerial accounting behind it. So, I think like the key, honestly, is find people who've been successful, and it's like, gain their assistance in whatever way you can to learn from their mistakes, because trust me, I've made more mistakes than I think most people, to get to this point.
Yeah, and the quicker you can learn that, the better.
Yeah.
Because it takes a lot of moving parts to do anything great. A lot of people involved, and nobody knows everything. And so the quicker you get past this thing that it's I've got to come up with all the ideas, the quicker you can move forward. If you enjoyed what you've heard and are dead serious about finding out for yourself exactly how this works in the real world, I've taken the most valuable business lessons I've learned over 40 years and put them into something for you to watch. Go to whiteelementwinning.com/webinar now in order to move up as fast as possible. I'm Larry Weidel, and I run the $1 Million Mastermind. Go, go, go.